Well, as I sit and wait for a movie that I've spent a tremendous amount of time putting together, compile before I upload it, I want to give you a heads up. I've come to the conclusion that Mother Nature has been creating the anomaly we call free energy all along, although it's not free energy, it's free current, and the reuse or recycling of voltage, which creates the illusion that energy is being created when all we're doing is creating current, not the voltage. The voltage we recycle without spending it. Mother Nature's been doing it all along. She doesn't make circuits out of Mount Rushmore like we do, and then get the silly idea that entropy rules the universe and subjugates all of its creatures under its wake. It doesn't work that way. Mother Nature doesn't make a circuit out of metal and rubber and concrete so that it just sits there static. She makes it out of flowing masses of air and water whose characteristic parameters change constantly in a very unstable way, up and down. And this is what parametric excitation means to me. Eric Dollard coined the term, and Raoui defined it mathematically on Energetic Forum, although I've been too busy to try to spend any time trying to study the math because it's higher math and I never took higher math. But the simulator does it for me, and Paul Falstad did a beautiful thing making a dynamic simulator that runs in real time, and you can change the parameters of caps and coils in real time. And I always thought it was a feature I should avoid. In other words, it'll give me an idea maybe whether or not something works, but I better wipe off the canvas and reload it fresh with all the values cleared, and I'll go into a binary text editor to make sure that the caps and coils and everything doesn't have any stored energy, to make sure I have a clean slate before I start a new version of a particular circuit I'm working on. But it's actually the changing of the parameters that creates free current. And I just thought it was an annoyance or a hazard, a caveat to working with a simulator that you can change the parameters in real time, even though it does have its benefits. But it's all beneficial, and that is one way to get free current, because current is the only thing that dissipates. It turns into heat and we lose it. That's entropy. But voltage, you can't lose voltage. Voltage is something you store in a condenser, like storing water in a bottle. And when you have that, why spend it? It's like money in the bank. It makes you feel wealthy, and that's a form of pressure. But it shouldn't be a burden, because it changes your reputation, and it changes how you view yourself. And then well, if I don't spend it, then I'll always have it there, and it'll sit there and give me a prestige I never had before when I was poor. Well, that's what voltage is like. If we don't spend it, and if we do, well, no, we don't spend it, but we have to massage it, though, to keep it lively and fresh. And that's what I did with a battery capacitor battery sandwich, so that the batteries can't spend anything because they're DC, and DC can't go through, well, nothing can go through a capacitor. But batteries are so dumb that they don't know anything better. All they know is DC. And so when AC comes along, AC comes and pushes on them, and they go, whoa, and then they go and push on their other side, which is the capacitor. And like any good mirror, it absorbs the shock and sends it back the other way, back through the battery. So the capacitor never allows the battery to lose anything, because anything sent through it gets reversed back out again through the battery again, because of that capacitor in between the two batteries. They both have to regain what they lost due to peer pressure, in a sense, due to the pressure of AC coming from outside themselves. But they're pacifists. You know, they're not dynamic like AC. They're pacifists, so they never lose their DC. They never lose their voltage because they only know DC is the only way to lose it, and the capacitor blocks them from doing that. So the AC, without that capacitor in between them, if you had a stack of batteries and you push AC through the stack of batteries, they'll lose their energy. But because they'll probably overheat. Right. So what happens is that capacitor reduces the level of current that is able to go through them, the AC current that's going through them, to such a small degree that they can't overheat and they can't lose their energy that way either. Yeah, because without that capacitor, theoretically they shouldn't lose any energy anyway. And so you're just using their volts and not using up their amps anyway. But this way, with a capacitor, it works even better. I never thought of that. I could take the capacitor out. It's not healthy for the battery, though. The amount of amperage that I've been throwing at it. It's much safer this way. Yeah, you want to safeguard your batteries. You don't want them to be destroyed because you want to use their voltage anyway. No, I'm doing it the right way. So Mother Nature does it all the time by changing all she has to do is have a tornado or a hurricane or something in which she will take a parameter such as inductance or electrostatics and vary it in such an unstable fashion, up and down, in a very randomized fashion at that, that she already goes ahead and she's creating free current right there. And you could say she's using current of a mechanical nature to create current of an electrical nature. And you could say that, well, I'm putting energy into the circuit because I'm manually going in and changing the capacitance up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. But it has no relation to, direct relation to the overall energy gain, overall current gain, I should say. Bad habit. I have to get out of it. Because it's random. Most of the time, you come out ahead. But once in a while, you don't. And it all depends how much up and down you go. If you don't go up and down enough when you're still building, sometimes you can fall short. But if you overbuild too much, the momentum becomes so great that you can afford to go up and down very little and cut into yourself a little because you overshot. So actually, that must be the secret of how to reduce and take away the energy then, is to go up and down so teeny-weeny that your loss becomes greater than your gain. Because if I have a huge sweep in which I go up and down to a very large degree range, then the gain is huge. So it makes sense. If I go up and down only a teeny tiny fraction, I'll lose energy, or I'll lose the current very quickly. And that's the secret of how to get rid of. Wow. I've been wondering all along, because you can't ground it out. It takes forever to leave the circuit. You can't isolate the components and ground out each one. It doesn't work. It can build up so much energy that it just takes forever to lose it. But this is how. The same way I used to build it, I can destroy it. Unbelievable. And then take it back to close to a cold start. I'm not sure I'll be able to go back to zero. But if I get close to zero, I could ground that out and it'll ground. Well, it should anyway. The real test is the snap switch initiation. If it doesn't meet it, then it wasn't fully grounded out. Because I only give it like 60 nanoamps, and it's not useless because it actually requires it. I've tried doing without it, and it it will build, but it'll take forever and a year. So in a sense, you could get away with it, but without it. But I wouldn't want to go there. I'm an impatient guy. I want everything now. Wow, so it was good doing this video. I understand now. I can actually throw away the energy. That's right. I forgot about that. This circuit has been a real skill builder. It's really taught me that there's a skill involved. There's a requirement to be skillful in a dynamic quality of operating the circuit, not in designing it, because there's really very little to design. It's quite a simple circuit, although it took a good deal of effort to hack through and not try to make it too complicated and just keep it simple. But it's really how it's operated, and you won't get that in LT Spice as readily as you will in Paul Falstad's simulator, and you certainly won't be allowed any surges in microcaps. So we literally have a sociological science of psychology to suppress freedom of thought, in as much as not to encourage it, but to discourage it too in some circumstances. So Mother Nature does it all the time, and it's her instability that does it, and that's why I've always liked to call this a wild stallion, or a wildfire for that matter, because it behaves like one, but it also requires the setup to behave that way, the same way, in order for that effect to occur. So the result is the same as the cause. It's the same nature, is instability, wildness, and I guess that's the way some people view freedom. And the word free is that it's wild and untamed and uncivilized, as if civilization had to do with robotic behavior and a robotic life. We don't call it that. We call it a comfortable life, but it's, in a sense, you could call it robotic. And Charlie Lutz didn't have kind words to say about the conditioned mind. He said we have to get out of the conditioned mind and think literally by the seat of our pants, in other words, to think with our heart and feel with our brain. Because our future survival depends on our intuition. It will not depend on our knowledge. We will never be able to keep up. The acceleration of new knowledge, the acceleration alone is going to continue to accelerate at such a pace that we will never be able to keep up with all the new knowledge that becomes available for the next few thousand years. And so he said intuition is going to be required, because there's no way you're going to wing it on knowledge alone. You're just going to have to feel your way through it. Or else you'll be in a confused, dazed state all the time and think like you don't belong here anymore. And then Mother Nature will be kind and remove you if you insist on feeling that way and not go with these new changes that are happening. That's really the dilemma, not disease, not war, not the Illuminati, wiping us out. It's simply, can we keep up with the fast pace of knowledge? We can't. No one will. And being a specialist won't even help anymore. I mean, you can do it as a hobby, but the real specialization will be intuition and thinking with our heart to be able to survive. Because we will have children who will dazzle us, maybe not right away, and we won't call them by name like we do nowadays. I think that's a prestige thing, a game. No, we won't be able to keep up with them, and it'll trouble their parents. Their parents are not going to be, they're going to be pissed more often than not, because they'll be stressed, because their children will be doing things that could freak them out. It won't make them happy. It'll take everything of the parents to be able to stay calm, because they won't be able to keep up with their children, and they won't be able to suppress them either. It's a good idea not to try, because you'll just get a brat as the result. Hint, hint. It don't work that way. Encouragement, honey, always works better than violence. Anyway, I guess I have nothing more to say. But this has really taught me a lot. And now that I understand it, I got some ideas on how to improve efficiency. Go back to the use of switches, because I love the use of switches. They really help. But now I understand it's really a question that I can get rid of energy now. And it's been 14 months in which, for the most part, not for the most part, all the time, all I've ever done is create energy, and I didn't know what to do with it. And this is what the Evie Gray team of Richard Hackenberger couldn't figure out what to do. Or Ronald, what was his name? God, I forgot the guy who preceded Richard Hackenberger. Anyway, is how do you get rid of it? You don't. You destroy it. You decompose it. You don't try to get rid of it, because that's impossible. You'll just have more than what you had before you started to try to get rid of it. Interesting. Fascinating. Wow, what a skill builder this exercise has been. It's all good. When you're an electrical engineer, it's not what you build, it's what you learn that counts. Building skills. And I may only build simulations, but I'm building skills. Nobody seems to notice that. They keep complaining, when are you going to build something for us? I'm not going to, am I? Hey, if you don't take the trouble to learn, that's not my problem. I put in the time, I get the benefit. You don't put in the time, how do you expect to get the benefit? You think I'm going to make it for you and manufacture it? Come on, that's not the future. Maybe you do it for your neighbor, Shawnee Bogman had the benefit of John Bedini as a neighbor, but he was her neighbor. He's not my neighbor, and he's dead now. So, well, maybe he is my neighbor. Maybe he's walking around in the astral plane, or in his astral body in the physical plane, helping out those of us far better than he could when he was alive. It could very well be. If his natural expiration date did not arrive yet, and he died prematurely, then that's what the case would be. If you're open and receptive to inner knowing, then he can help you if he's around. But who knows? I don't know. All I know is once in a while I get inspired, and I surprise myself just when I thought my learning process was over with. Anyway, thanks for watching.